So welcome to Open Source Question Burns. I am Flavie and this is Ben.
Hi. Today we are happy to welcome Jen, one of our open source and teaching inspirations.
Thanks for having me. I'm really honored.
Awesome.
Awesome. So let's start with our burning questions. So are you cats or dogs?
I had a feeling you were going to ask this because I watched your interview with my colleague Tara. So I grew up with a Cocker Spaniel, but I have to say I really love cats. They're so savage. You know, they just don't care.
Yeah,
And
that's a good one.
my cat has a Twitter account and a social media following. So you can follow her at Native Script Cat on Twitter.
That's great.
That is cool.
Yes.
All right. If you could travel back in time to stop or remove one software project, which would it be?
So traveling back to get rid of one software project.
Yes.
Uh, I have to say, because I worked with it for so many years, um, I think I would not want to be using Cold Fusion. I think it kind of was one of those black box technologies that I worked with for ages and ages, and it kind of like, you probably don't know what I'm talking about. It was,
Sounds cool.
yeah, it was a scripting language, and it was just something that we worked with for a little bit too long, I think, without like progressing forward.
Okay.
When did you start coding?
I jumped into this field at the end of the dot-com boom. So it was about 2001, probably. I have an academic background, so I transitioned out of the academy and into this field because it was so difficult to get a job with my training, which was teaching French. So I'm actually a French teacher whose career switched and transitioned into software development.
How did you become a web developer from French literature studies?
Yeah, it's kind of following up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, I had to completely retrain from scratch. So there was a thing called Macromedia University back in the day. Macromedia was acquired by Adobe later. But they had kind of online courses, and I learned Photoshop and Illustrator. And I thought I was going to be, like I said, a graphic designer. Not that great at it. So just once you start doing Illustrator, you might start jumping into Flash. Once you start doing Flash, you start looking at action scripts. So pretty soon you're going to have to learn how to do some kind of scripting. And it kind of flowed organically deeper and deeper into the guts of the projects. And you know, I was hired into my first startup in like 2001. Actually, my baby was really tiny at the time, so even earlier than that. Yeah, 2001. And it was at a time where if a monkey could do HTML or CSS, they could get hired. And that was kind of my level, you know, just like. And, you know, thank God for my first startup. We went under really fast because it was a terrible startup, but it's okay. You get job experience.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. What do you think is best, Yarn or NPM?
It's funny you should ask this because I was just having a tremendous amount of trouble with NPM last night, trying to do a new install of some software we're developing, and Yarn worked beautifully for me. I think what's going on in my machine is I have too many versions of NPM, so I have to use NVM to sort them all out. And for me, Yarn just works a little bit simpler with this particular project, so right now I'm Team Yarn.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
At which age should kids learn to code?
I think that it's not necessary to learn to code, actually. I think that there's this idea that every single human on the face of the planet has to learn how to code. And geez, we got to leave a little space for poets, you know, for the artists, for the literature. So, you know, you and I have this like external field soft spot. But at least they should understand that there's things behind the scenes of their iPhones that they should be comfortable with. So if kids can get a little comfortable as soon as they can start typing, if they're interested in it, when they can learn how to keyboard, which is about age 12, that's a great time to start actually like maybe working in Python or something like that to get a little comfortable and to start building things if they're interested in it. And if they're not, that's okay.
Yeah, great.
Perfectly okay. Yeah. Okay. Which one of your projects is the most important for you?
Right now, I'm really excited by a project that I just launched in Amsterdam at this conference called VueVixens. So if you go to viewvixens.org, it's teaching people who identify as women in online workshops, in face-to-face workshops and conferences, and also online, how to write web and mobile with Vue.js. So it's going to be a project that I think is going to take off. I've already been invited to 2 conferences to launch this thing, and I think it's going to be a really fun way to introduce Vue to a new audience. And Vue is great anyway, so it's just really fun.
Yeah, I would like to test it once.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And so, do you use one of these two, Vim or Emacs?
Yeah, in my last job, I was kind of arm twisted into using Emacs, and the first time I opened it, it has this little icon, and I thought it was a pop-up ad. It was so ugly, so I closed it. I don't love either. I know my colleague Tara is a huge Vimmer. I just can't. So I just use VS Code, Visual Studio Code for me all the way.
And so following up with design, which one of these frameworks do you like the most? NgPrime, Material UI, Kendo UI, or pure CSS?
That's a trick question for me because my company produces Kendo UI.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't think I can say anything else. The other one was material design, did you say?
Yes.
Yeah.
I actually do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have used various permutations of that in my other projects, and that's actually a really good thing to have into your tool set. But I also have recently been looking at using CSS Grid. That's really powerful instead of Flexbox. That's something maybe people want to take a look at as well.
What do you like the most about your job?
Wow, I love that. So I'm a developer advocate, which means that I get to travel a lot and speak a lot, and I really enjoy traveling. I just got back from Amsterdam, which is just an unbelievable experience. It was a fantastic set of back-to-back conferences. Before that, I was in Paris for NG Europe. But in March, I'm going to be traveling maybe a little too much, but it's all over the place. And I really love traveling to different places and meeting new developers and kind of feeling out where their pain points are.
Yeah.
That's the best part of my job and my experience. It's really, really a pleasure. It's really fun.
That's
great.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when you travel, what do you have with you on your computer? Is it a macOS, Linux, OpenBSD, or Windows?
Just a straight up Mac. I just have my trusty MacBook Pro, and God forbid that something would happen to this machine because you're like attached to it.
Who would you like to meet from the coding world?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I'll tell you, the CEO. I don't know if he's really the coding world, but he's pretty technical. I would love to sit down with the CEO of Microsoft, because I think he's really turned that company around because he has such a strong feel for the development world. And I think I would love to get his perspective on how he manages a huge enterprise company like that, but still retains the common touch with the base developers. I think that's a great story. I'd love to get more perspective from him. So that's very high level.
Yeah.
In terms of like actual developers that I'd like to meet, I'd like to get a little more intimate with the React community. I don't know who's doing what there, and I kind of feel like that would be a community. It's really vibrant, and I don't have a good feel for what's going on over there. So I'd kind of like to, delve a little bit and see who to do it.
All right. And do you prefer coding, teaching, or giving conferences all over the world?
It kind of goes all together because you can't give a conference talk without having a great demo coded up. So I couldn't do one without the other, I think. But I've always maintained that it's really important to keep your skill set alive, to keep really up to date with what's going on, especially in my current position. So for me, the base pleasure is the coding. And then speaking about the demos that I create is kind of icing on the cake, which is all part of teaching. So it's all together, right?
Yeah. In which language did you start coding? I
think my first startup was ASP. Isn't that awful? That's crazy. I can't even remember. We were doing a lot of ASP, and I don't remember anything about how to do it anymore. But it was all it was the Microsoft stack. So it was MS SQL, and then a lot of that. And then I moved into a nonprofit, and I got into ActionScript. So I was doing a lot of Flash programming. So I didn't do JavaScript until actually relatively recently, because my previous job to this actually was still Cold Fusion. So it's kind of lasted a really, really long time. Yeah.
Okay.
And do your parents or relatives understand what you do?
Good question. No. It's kind of hard to explain. that some people have said that developer advocates are like the Instagram models of programming, and that doesn't either translate either. So I think my husband, who's at MIT, he kind of understands what's going on. But for my dad, I try to explain, look, I'm traveling and I give a lot of talks. And I did send him a link to one of my talks, and he thought that was cool. So video speaks 1,000 words, right?
Is there something you wouldn't make open source or open technology?
Great question. Because it always comes down to how you're going to monetize, how much you want to open up your code base to people who can just go ahead and, do the usual open source thing and fork and copy. If you are in need of a monetization strategy, you might want to open source only part of your project. That's kind of the strategy of Kendo UI. Some of it is open, some of it is not, because we need to be able to keep the lights on. So I guess that's kind of where it boils down, sad as it is.
And so in one sentence, what is so great about NativeScript and why should we use it?
In one sentence, make it a long sentence, lots of comments. If you like making cross-platform mobile apps using Angular, Vue, or no framework at all, you might love working with NativeScript, as we are carefully curating the getting started experience for developers and have a great community that will take care of you from beginning to end, period.
That's
there
great.
That's a good one, yeah.
Very good one.
Do you have any new projects for 2018?
2018, I'm deep diving into Vue, and I'm watching the Vue CLI version 3 coming out, because I think it's going to allow us to code share between web and mobile in a really exciting way. I really love where this framework is going. I love the community, and I love what we can do with it already. So I'm really looking forward to building more and more interesting apps using our NativeScript Vue plugin. This is coming up, and I'm really excited about it.
Okay.
About open source again, what open source project do you think is underappreciated and should get more fame and attention at the moment?
I think that there are some interesting projects dealing with gaming in JavaScript that probably could get some more attention, and maybe it's just because people have trouble connecting the idea of building a game with JavaScript for mobile, in terms of performance. There are a couple of small frameworks out there that probably ought to get a little bit more attention, and maybe it's just a question of making interesting demos that people can use. So these little, like if you just Google around for the little JavaScript gaming frameworks, those are super fun and ought to be pumped up a little.
Here's something completely different. How did you earn your first money?
Yeah, I've been working since I was 15, but before that, I was a Girl Scout, so I sold a lot of cookies.
That's good, yeah.
Yeah, so it's not really a paycheck though. But my first job was in high school, and I worked in a gift shop. And it turns out that I'm really good at sales. I can sell anything. So, especially when you're like a young lady and you're working in a gift shop and your job is to sell jewelry, literally all you have to do is wear it, and people are kind of, oh, I want, It's like, this is really easy.
Okay, great. If you have Saturday afternoon available, where would you like to go? Mountain, beach, or countryside?
I love the beach. We just got back from Miami Beach, and boy, it's hotter than heck, but it was really nice because I'm in New England, so it's always a little cold, even on Cape Cod, which is kind of our local beach.
Yeah.
It's not, you're not going to just jump in, but I love going to the beach and swimming in the ocean. It's so fun.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And lastly, what non-software job would you do if a solar eruption ended at the digital age?
Oh, I can always go back to teaching French. For me, it's always I can go back into the classroom. So I just probably would get a certificate and go back to teaching. I think especially in this day and age, we need to be able to communicate with a lot of other people outside of our bubble. And actually, I think foreign language education is and should be increasingly important going forward. I don't know if it's going to be, but I wish it was.
Thank you very much.
So yes, thank you very much, Jane.
Thank you very much.
and thank you for watching. Like this video and subscribe on our Let's Boot YouTube channel for get more of this super open source interview. Thank you so much.